The whole world is watching what's happening here in Cook County. And the fact of the matter is that we've had a failing criminal justice system for quite some time. And we need to be honest right now about how deeply and profoundly broken our criminal justice system is and how it's been allowed to be this way for so long. And it's largely because we've ignored what's been happening for decades, because there's been what I would consider to be an unhealthy disconnect between the communities that have been impacted by crime and violence and misconduct from the rest of us. Amen. And so the fact of the matter is that here in Cook County, just last month, we started issuing checks from the first police torturers reparations fund in the country. And it was as the result of the acknowledgement that for decades, men and some women were subjected to horrific abuses by our police department that largely went unnoticed and undealt with. And so we spent $5.7 million on a reparations fund to pay these victims. But the question about the fact that how do we allow our system to be so horrifically dysfunctional that even despite all of that, it took the murder of a child on video for the county to wake up and say, where are we? It took the 400-day delay of this state's attorney for us to ask questions about what is the job of the state's attorney. And the reason that we've been in that position is because the people who have been affected have been in an us and them category. And it's all of us. It's all of us. And right now we have an opportunity with our criminal justice system to deal with the issues related to not just police misconduct, but crime and violence and the use of our criminal justice system for its intended purposes, which is to keep our communities safe. And so that's why I'm running, because we have a lot of work to do. And we have to do the work not in incremental steps, but we literally have to blow it up and start from the beginning. And the reason that I feel that I'm uniquely situated to do that is because I know firsthand, not just from my legal and professional career, but because of my personal experiences in this county, in this city, around criminal justice. I just last week launched my first commercial. And I was explaining all week because people like, explain to me why you did this commercial with the bathtub and the child praying. And it's because I'd gone through a number of these speeches and I was explaining to people that when I was growing up, that when gunshots would go off and we couldn't tell the difference between fireworks and gunshots, my mother and my grandmother would usher us to the bathroom and tell us to lie in the bathtub. And she told us that because the wisdom was that bullets didn't pierce porcelain. And we would lay in that bathtub afraid as we're seeking shelter and pray that we would be able to get up and get out. I tell this story because that happened to me as a young child. And that pit in your stomach that you've gone through that, you kind of compartmentalize that you don't ever have to live like that again. But about 5 years ago, my children, who lived in the suburbs, went to visit my mother in Inglewood on New Year's Eve so my husband and I can get a rare night out. And the next day when they came home and I asked them, did they get to drink their grape juice and stay up past midnight, they said, yeah, it was a lot of fun, but Nana made us get in the bathtub. The reality is that in neighborhoods across this county, there are still children seeking shelter in bathtubs. We have a responsibility to make sure that every child in every neighborhood is safe. That's why I'm running. Listen, what happened with Laquan McDonald, what happened with the police, with Burge, what happened that we've all been woken up to in the last several months is indicative of a larger problem in our criminal justice system and our failed priorities. The fact of the matter is that in Cook County, at the jail, where we have the largest single-site jail in the country, 70% of the people who are there for nonviolent offenses. 70%. So the people who keep us up at night, the people who are ravaging our streets with gang and gun violence, are not the people who are in our jails. Our jails are not filled with those who are causing harm to our community. And make no mistake, those who cause harm to our community ought to be separated out from us. But the problem is that we've used our jails to deal with the increased mental health population. While the governor's office has cut funding for mental health, and it's not just him, it's here in the city, and it's been for decades, the deterioration of services to deal with the mentally ill have caused us to use our jails as a de facto mental health institution, and that's not appropriate.
Right.
The fact that in our jails that we have a large population, not just of those who have mental illness, but those who have drug addictions. And we know that drug addiction is a health issue. We've become so accustomed to using our criminal health system to criminalize behaviors that ought to be dealt with outside of our jails that we've destabilized communities, and the very communities where the violence is on the rise. Because our priorities have been skewed. That we have gone so accustomed, and the state's attorney has said basically, that's not my problem. When they come before me, my job is to see what's the charge, can I prove it, and what's the sentence. And the problem is we cannot operate a criminal justice system in a silo, away from all of the other issues that contribute to violence in our communities. If we continue to do that, we will continue to spend good money after bad to the tune of $500 million of your tax dollars every year on a criminal justice system that is failing us. And so we have an obligation right now to acknowledge that the system is so profoundly broken. And the problem is the current state's attorney doesn't even see that it's broken. You have the current state's attorney who in the last 3 weeks has repeatedly says that she's done absolutely nothing wrong when it comes to Laquan McDonald. Her words. Even though the Department of Justice is coming in and taking a look. Even though literally the world is watching. And so in order for us to fix what is broken, we have to acknowledge that it is in fact broken. And we have to roll up our sleeves and say that we're not taking small incremental steps. We're about to be bold and transformative with our criminal justice system. And that means dealing with the issues of violence in our communities and the fact that we have neighborhoods where it's easier for children to get guns than it is to get services. And I'm committed to making sure that every child in every neighborhood has the quality of life that children from the North Shore to the West have. That is my commitment. That is my obligation as someone who knows what it feels like to seek shelter in bathtubs and knows that we can absolutely do better. I need all of you and your support on March 15th and in the intervening days between then to get the word out, because it's time for transformation in Cook County. Thank you very much.